Welcome to The Power of the P, the podcast designed to help you become empowered in your truth, free of fear. I'm E.L. Brooks, your host, here to bring you expert advice and effective tools based on neuroscience to help you deal with all the stressors in life, relationships, and work. I'm here to keep you off that struggle bus through the power of the P. Are you ready? Then let's go. Welcome to The Power of the P, episode number 5. Thank you for tuning in. And if you're not familiar with the show's format, it's like a Dear John life advice show, except for I'm EL, so it's Dear EL, where followers and subscribers send in questions of things that they're dealing and struggling with, and I'll pick one, maybe two questions, give some important insight, and provide some effective tools that are backed in neuroscience. And I'll offer one key takeaway at the end to log into your memory to help you become more resilient and emotionally stable. So today we're talking about confidence. Your confidence is the driver of your life, hands down. Let me ask you a few important questions. Now, where would you be today if you had 10 times more confidence? What would you actually be doing today if you had 10 times more confidence? What could you achieve? Who would you be? And how would you feel? And if the answer is different from what you're doing today and how you're feeling today, then you need to pay attention to this episode. Your confidence is like a thermometer. So today we're going to expose you to some really key tools to ensure that that thermometer never drops too low again from this day forward. How's that sound? Let's get started. Jason S. wrote in and said that his confidence has been shook. And I can understand where he's coming from, because let's face it, we've all been there, right? When our confidence is shaken, it can be crippling to us depending on how low our confidence drops. Our confidence, again, is like a thermostat. When it drops too low, we're lost. We're all but a shell of ourselves. And when it's too high, it could be too much. It could be overbearing. But the majority of the world suffers from a lack of confidence that's holding them back from living that 10x quality life. But we're going to solve all of that today. So let's jump into Jason's email. Jason writes, bro, love that. He says, I recently stood my ground against some big time industry giants that are narcissists, and now they have a smear campaign against me. I've now been blackballed out of work. I'm receiving threats from random people. My reputation is ruined. Everywhere I go, I hear it. I can't get away from it. I can't see a way out. I've lost everything trying to do the right thing. And my confidence is at an all-time low. Seems like they're blocking me at every turn. I really need your help. Signed, Jason S. So when I received this email, I immediately thought of the movie An Opportunity. And if you're not familiar with this movie, the Duke brothers own this really, really large firm, and they frame a successful stockbroker who works for them for a crime that he didn't commit. And then they replace him with a street, prove the opportunity from Winthrop, and opportunity to Billy Ray Valentine. That's Eddie Murphy's character. So Billy Ray goes on. So his confidence and his thermostat continue to rise. And Winthrop's confidence and thermostat start to plummet because of the events and the optics that discourage the view of his future. It starts to look bleak to him. And this is really, really important for you to understand. So most of our human limitations are solely around our level of confidence and self-esteem. It's usually a lack of confidence that holds everyone back from becoming the person that they want to be and doing the things that they want to do. There's a perceived gap, right? That we talked about earlier in earlier episodes, from the person that you are and the person that you want to be. And in a lot of cases, the person that you know you can be. They say that true hell is when you pass away and you finally meet that person that you were meant to be, that higher version of yourself, right? And depending on how big that gap is, they say will determine your level of suffering, because you receive confirmation of the possibility. My belief is that that higher version, or that person that we're meant to be, is already within us. Some say that that version is already living that life in an altered universe. So my theory, keeping that concept in mind, is that that version that is living in that altered universe is that other positive voice in our head, not the naysaying voice, but that positive voice that is always guiding us to move in the right direction so that we can achieve the things that they're experiencing in an altered universe in this lifetime here on Earth. Could be, right? It makes you think, right? But what we all need to know, everyone needs to know, is that it's never too late to build and improve your confidence, to improve on the things that drive us to act. Confidence cultivates an action mindset. Action drives everything. The higher the action, the higher the results. Nothing happens without action. So what kills confidence?
Well, it's our perspective around a lot of things: time, age, gender, appearance, really the meanings that we learn through society's constructs, which, if you break down the word construct, it literally means deceptive structure. So there's so many factors that we can name that kill our confidence. But you know me, I like to focus on the drivers underneath that cause what we call the emotional state to feel less than. And that is around a certain mindset, or what we call mind traps. So going back to Winthrop, he lost his confidence because he started to feel less than. And that invites doubt and discouragement, and that freezes us. So we can no longer take action because we're now trapped in these disempowering thoughts and emotions. So when our confidence drops, we have a lower net worth. That is our neurological energetic transmission. And we start to experience and emit lower energy. We're emitting lower vibrations, and we're experiencing lower emotions below the support line of life. And that is due to the meanings and the beliefs that are around that disempowering mindset. So today we're going to focus on two mindset traps that kill confidence. Then we're going to learn their antidotes to stave them off. And then at the end, I'm going to give you one key takeaway and a few tips to rebuild and maintain confidence. How's that sound? So, quick note, remember, low confidence, low self esteem is always linked to a lack and inadequacy narrative, which manifests in the way of fear, discouragement, and doubt. Remember, from our previous episode, I think it was episode number 4, I believe, everything is energy, and we're motivated by two main energies: love and fear. And to recap, love is that move towards energy, and fear is the move away from energy, really moving away from our core self. Now, here's an important fact. Now, please listen up. We're not born with the concept of doubt in our consciousness. If that were the case, we'd never learn to walk, right? So if you could tap into the brains of a 12-month-old and ask them at what point would they give up learning how to walk, and they would tell you that that is not an option. Your typical 11 or 12-month-old instinctively encourages themselves to keep trying to walk no matter how many times that they fall. They simply get up, and unlike us adults, they don't punish themselves with 3 days of negative self talk for falling down so many times compared to the successful steps that they take. Even when they get to the early walking stage, right? They're still averaging about 17 falls an hour, according to a study performed for the National Institute of Health, National Library of Medicine. But that doesn't discourage them. They smile and they keep pushing on, right? But as we grow up, somewhere along our development, we all develop emerging patterns of thinking that lead us to developing self doubt. And these patterns are actually planted inside our minds from parents unknowingly imposing high standards that may not be age appropriate, right? To teachers, to coaches, and other authoritative figures that may have biases, being bullied at school, being compared to other students and athletes. The list goes on. Simply growing up in a toxic family environment can actually impose self doubt. So, going back to trading places, it's about our mindset and our settings. That's the environment that influences our behavior, right? What usually happens is we unknowingly cultivate these patterns of thinking by repeating them thousands and thousands of times into our consciousness. And that morphs into these false and limiting beliefs that kill our confidence. But here's the secret: when we challenge these limiting beliefs and disconfirm them, the opposite occurs. We become encouraged and our confidence starts to grow. So, back in my music executive days, I actually had an advisor and I had a coach. And my fitness coach was actually total badass. And I'll never forget our first session. So, I had a home gym and he came to my house. And to make a long story short, he basically like jumped right into it, right? He said, let's do 500 sit ups, 10 sets of 50, 50 sets of 10, 100 sets of 5. I don't care how it happens, just make it happen. He says, I'm going to time you. And just know that I had never done 500 sit-ups in one setting, but he wasn't trying to hear all of that. He was like, the clock starts now, right? So then I knocked that out. He says, go grab some water, take a 5-minute break, and then come back up. And then as I come back up, he's like, all right, grab these weights. We're going to do 300 squats. And he says, same thing, 10 sets of 30, 30 sets of 10, 3 sets of 100. I don't care how it happens. Just make it happen. And clock starts now. And we did a few more of those kind of things. And then when I finally finished, he asked me, what do you think this was all about? And I just sat there. I was like, I don't know. He's like, This was a mind exercise. He says, your mind is the only thing that you may ever control, and it's the only thing that you will ever compete with. And he says, the only limits that you set are in your mind. And when you learn to control your mind and be open to all possibilities, you will conquer the world. And he said, that is my gift to you today. So what he did was break my mental limitations on what I thought I could do, right? And that small lesson had a huge ripple effect on my overall approach to life going forward. It was a defining moment that boosted my confidence. So the moral of the story is that our limiting and false beliefs prevent us from experiencing our innate potential. And if we believe them, they can kill our confidence. Had my coach not pushed me, I would have thought that his ask was impossible, all due to an inferior mindset at the time, right? But remember, I just gave you a secret. When we challenge and disconfirm those beliefs, the opposite happens, right? Our confidence grows, and that's what I experienced. So, but I have to say that she's a recent discover of mine, and she's a new favorite. I think she's very intelligent. I love her delivery, and I have to say that she's pretty easy on the eyes. No disrespect to her husband, but my girlfriend and I follow her, and we're really big fans. So, all right, a sidetrack there. But according to her, there are 3 universal self-doubt mind pits that most of us aren't aware of. And again, this is learned behavior. This is not your base programming. So I'll say it again to hammer it home. Your adversaries come in many forms. Again, your parents, your friends, family members, a partner or spouse, which probably has the biggest impact and influence. All they need to do is get you to be discouraged and plant doubt in your mind. Those are the 2 most chaotic things for our mindset. You can't take action or win when you have doubt, and you can't win when you're discouraged. But the good news is that doubt is always tied to a story that you're telling yourselves, a negative narrative. And once you know this, it is up to you to recognize that so that you can change that story around your doubt. When you build your self-confidence to be bigger than your doubt, it minimizes the impact and the power that doubt has on you. So remember a few episodes back, we talked about finding yourself, right? Really finding yourself includes finding your confidence. And it's all around eliminating these limiting and false beliefs. So there are really 2 problems in life, or should I say concerns, because they're both solvable. They both have a direct impact on our confidence. And number 1 is knowing what you want out of life, but not knowing how to get it. And I call that a lack of framework. And number 2 is not knowing what you want out of life. And I call that a lack of aligned opportunity. And remember, without framework and opportunity, we often feel discouraged, like Winthrop did. We've introduced into the equation, and that friction is due to a lack of clarity because of these 2 mind traps that we're going to discuss and discover. Right. The first mind trap, or mind pit, however you want to refer to it, is called failure to launch. Failure to launch. Nope, this is not a sexual thing. This is all around the concern of number 1, which is knowing what you want, but not knowing how to get it. And if you know what you want and not know how to get it, this is also around something that we covered earlier, is to know and not do. It's a form of ignorance. It's our ability to ignore. The not do, however, is due to this mindset that you'll see. So how does one fall into this mind trap? The research reveals one common overarching theme is ruminating and overthinking. This inevitably leads to procrastination and stagnation. This is high effort and low energy. And in this mindset, we fail to take action. That is the failure to launch part, right? So overthinking stems from our primitive instinct of self-preservation. In this state, we fixate on worst case scenarios. What could go wrong? And what is missing? And the top 3 is always money, time, and energy, right? We excessively ruminate on what ifs. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if I'm underqualified, and so on? And this state of orientation paralyzes us. So overthinking fuels the self-doubt, which kills the confidence, and then leads to self-criticism, right? What's wrong with me? Why is everyone so far ahead? Why does everyone seem to have it together except for me? And just so you know, all the stories that you're telling yourselves are all lies. The real truth is that you're actually spending more time thinking than doing, because the thinking is around disempowering thoughts. Disempowering thoughts give you no motivation to take action. They only give you excuses. The solution. Procrastination is often misinterpreted as laziness. It's actually a trauma response. is typically driven by the avoidance of the pain associated with failure, with rejection, and criticism. So, UCLA psychologists discovered that the pain of rejection or failure activates the same area of the brain as physical pain. It hurts. So, it makes sense that your mind and your body wants to avoid it, right? So, the avoidance manifests itself in these inner chatters, these negative chatters that becomes disempowering. So by changing the narrative, you can eliminate the avoidance. So inner chatter that has a negative narrative usually equals avoidance, right? So anytime that we say that I can't do this, or I don't like this, or I don't want this, typically that's something that we're trying to avoid, right? So the opposite is true. Inner chatter that has a positive narrative is usually around taking action, right? So when I say I can't do this, flip it into something positive, saying, how can I make this happen? So a really powerful shift in play on words is shifting from I have to do this, or I should do this, or I must do this. Jim Rohn used to say, when you tell yourself I have confidence, another powerful shift is the shift in the energy of gratitude. So instead of saying I can't, say, I get to do this. I'm grateful, or I choose to do this because it serves me. That's empowering, and that's empowerment. Remember, our action is state dependent. And remember that the results is determined by our effort and our energy. Our effort is related to our consciousness, the thoughts that we tell ourselves, right? And that influences our energy, which is the source of our willpower. So instead of combating the disempowering thoughts, redirect your mind with empowering thinking that echoes personal control. Next is to move from why to how. Again, don't fight the disempowering thoughts. Change them. Don't say, why can't I? Say, how can I? What can I do to get more excited? How can I create more effort and energy to take action? The study shows that cognitive reframing has a positive influence on how we feel. And remember, when we change our state and change our story, it allows us to apply new strategies. We get different results. Also, when our thoughts are focused on taking action rather than overthinking, we embody an action orientation. This leads to better performance and improved ability to handle setbacks. So it's really a two-step process. It's vital that the reframing is immediately followed by an action step. So we know from neuroimaging studies that your brain determines what is deemed exciting or fear-inducing in a split second. It's actually called emotional appraisal. So by taking immediate action, you short-circuit the brain, and thus you're out of your overthinking cycle. And by doing this, you eject yourself right out of the failure to launch mind. So the next mind trap is a little bit easier to spot, and it's called treading water. And this is a pattern of failing to finish what you start. And this is related to concern number 2. It's not knowing what you really, really want out of life. You're not clear. You're often distracted by what's new and shiny because you haven't really taken the time to reflect, or you simply haven't found that thing that lights your soul on fire. So you're continuously searching for it, right? So this has nothing to do with intelligence. In fact, most of the perpetrators of this mind trap are actually brilliant, and that's part of the problem. It's around a perceived lack of commitment, because who wants to commit to anything that they're not into, right? Who wants to commit to something that they don't like? And this is usually due to exhaustion because you're not making progress. And this is another aspect of self-doubt. It can lead to hesitation. Did I make the right decision? Should I have chosen this path? Maybe I need to change things up before I go too far down the wrong road. Usually there is boredom associated because you're not being challenged. And when you're bored, there's no more dopamine to reward the work. So instead of getting to the finish line, it seems more rewarding to move on to the next more exciting thing. Or maybe there's a seeking of greener pastures that make the path that you're on less interesting, so you eventually lose steam. But if this becomes habitual, then you're now stuck in this treading water mind. Here's the solution to this mindset. This mindset stems from a lack of meaning. It's easy to get cold feet about committing when you're not crystal clear on why you're committing, right? Especially when things get tough and certain parts of the brain shut down, right? Or when you encounter something that's new and exciting, that shiny new object, right? That new bouncing ball, so to speak. It's really a lack of focus on your why. Remember, your why is your reason for being. So by identifying and aligning to a clear why, you can escape this treading water mind trap. So if you find yourself in this mind trap, You can ask these 5 questions to gain clarity. Number one, these 5 questions are clearly answered. Usually they typically leads to our why. And then when you face the inevitable roadblocks and friction, because they will always come, remind yourself of your why. And usually, if you have a strong enough why, your discipline becomes intrinsic because you now have a solid North Star. Remember, these 2 mind traps are fueled by self-doubt. And if we don't reclaim control over the habits that kill our confidence in who we are and the value that we bring. So remember, none of us are born with self-doubt, right? This is a learned behavior, which means if you learn it, you can unlearn it through new healthy habits by tapping into the power of neuroplasticity that rewires your brain. And as Will Durant said, here's a key takeaway, and it's a long one, so bear with me. All right. So Oprah Winfrey says people don't know where they want to go. A lot of people are doing what they think they should do, not what they must do, right? Or they're doing things that other people are telling them to do. And this is not in alignment, and this causes confusion, which leads to lower confidence. We then start to seek, which makes us feel lost and discouraged. We then start to have these private conversations with ourselves, and we start to form these patterns of thinking that don't serve us because they lead to disempowering thoughts and emotions. Now, there are several questions that I give my clients to help them align and find themselves and find their purpose. But it generally comes down to these 2 significant questions. Down and get clarity around that, then you really regain your confidence. I don't care what you're going through. When you're locked in on what you want and you see a path on how to get there, the entire world could be imploding around you. It doesn't matter because you're focused. And when we're focused and locked in, we're confident. The key is having a strong why around what you're doing. You must have a strong why because that's going to be the driver to your North Star. Then all you have to do is just make sure that every decision that you make is in the direction of that North Star. Your North Star is your aligned opportunity, and your why is your framework within your mindset that drives you. So the reason why most people are experiencing chaotic lives is because they're living in stress and chaos in their minds. And as soon as you get clear around what you want, your mind clears and confidence is restored. So we all need something to look forward to, right? Because when our minds wander, we go to 3 places. It's called Trikala. It's the 3 dimensions of time. It's our focus. We spend 28% of our time focusing on the present, which that needs to improve. We focus 42% of our time thinking about the future. And this is the key to the takeaway. We need something to look forward to that drives us, right? We need a North Star, and we need a strong why to reach that North Star. Our North Star gives us a compelling future, which makes it easier to deal with difficult times and difficult people. This is the antidote to the intrusive thoughts that can easily penetrate when we don't know what we want and we don't know why. Because again, we saw earlier, when we don't know what we want and we don't know why, it's a form of lack that makes us feel less than. Tony Robbins says that you can deal with a difficult today if you have a compelling tomorrow. So my formula to creating clarity and confidence is the following. So my formula is this. It is the why. So those 2 together is your purpose. What do I really want and why? That is a purpose. Plus AO, that is your aligned opportunity. That is your vision to your North Star, right? Plus framework. Framework is the plan how to get to your North Star. What those 3 things do when they're combined is that they make it greater than any of your limiting and false belief. So now your confidence is now bigger than your doubt. You're actually pushing your doubt into a small corner because your confidence is now greater than any doubt that you have. So that is how you develop a confident mindset. Once again, it's WDIRW \W plus AO plus FW minus LFB. Again, that is what do I really want and why, plus aligned opportunity, plus framework minus limiting false beliefs will always equal a confident mindset. So the last part of this takeaway is I play this game when I realize that I may be letting doubt in the door or letting fear take a seat at my mental conference table, as I like to say. So I remember that energy is like a vampire, right? It sucks the life out of you. And if you recall those old vampire stories, you actually had to give them permission to come into focus. And just the awareness and that tool alone lessens the power of any of my doubts, right? So awareness allows you to direct and correct. Direct your attention elsewhere to empowering thoughts, right? And correct the limiting and false beliefs that are trying to knock you off your game. Now you know. One love.
Today's episode was sponsored by Help to Love, a platform to open your mind, achieve mental agility, and integrate into the person that you're meant to be. With a wealth of resources and expert advice at your fingertips, Help to Love makes prioritizing your mental well-being easier than ever. It's a non-judgmental approach to mental wellness to help you design that 10x life you deserve. Sign up today at www.helptolove.com. Join the thousands of users who have already discovered the transformative power. Register for the free webinar that will open your mind and plant seeds for your ultimate breakthrough. If you felt this episode was helpful and insightful, please like, share, and subscribe so that you'll be notified of all of our upcoming content and special announcements. I'm E.L. Brooks, your host. As always, I thank you for your support and especially your time. One love.